We have liftoff. Hello, and welcome back to the Mystery Docket here at the Alexander Society podcast. My name is Tim, and I'm desperately begging the ATF not to raid my compound. Here with me is Derek, my best buddy, who accidentally tipped me off by telling the mailman that they're raiding their compound, even though he's also a cult member. How are you, Derek?
You're so oddly specific with your intros. It gives it a real veneer of even though you're saying exactly what's going to happen, it's still adding like a veneer of mystery to it. Like why?
It's so oddly specific. There's no way that actually happened.
Well, here's the thing, though. I know what's going to happen, but like, why does it happen? Why does any of this happen? Why are we here, Tim?
Death. That's why we're here.
Just to suffer?
Possibly. I liked. I heard it described as this. We're nothing special. Our universe is just God's science fair project he got a C on.
That's the opposite of what I've heard, which is we are the universe experiencing itself. Those are two very different approaches to...
But they both could be the same.
Yeah, we are the universe experiencing itself, but...
They could both be true.
But the universe has like a 75 IQ.
Yeah, basically.
That's a joke. I don't actually believe in IQ. It's a bunk science. Fuck you. I'm doing all right, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Work was really good today. We kept up with everything. We did really good today.
Hell yeah. I was supposed to go play a game today at the game shop, and the guy I was supposed to be playing with canceled on me because he had to help his stepdaughter move.
Fair.
And fair, but also like, just give her the truck. just give
misogyny.
But I get not trusting a teenage girl with a truck, but like, I got some games to play, man. I got a new list I want to try out.
What's more important, taking care of your stepdaughter or playing games with a random stranger on a Saturday afternoon?
Me, if the stranger, if I'm the stranger, it's me. Playing games with a stranger, absolutely.
So, Derek, what are you drinking tonight?
What am I drinking tonight for my shots? I got some bamboo rum, and it's been in the freezer for 3 days now. So it's.
Is that the normal bamboo? Is it a different reserve or something like that?
It's the normal. It's the normal bamboo. I was thinking about getting the darker spiced.
I'm surprised you haven't tried their darker ones yet. You're more of a dark rum guy.
Yeah, but the bottle was like all pitch black, and it was kind of intimidating, and I was just kind of wanting a more relaxing flavor. So, and I knew bamboo, just regular bamboo, just has a very relaxing sweetness to it, and that's what I wanted. So that's what I got. I will try the dark one eventually, but it's just not what I was in the mood for.
Fair enough.
But yeah, bamboo. This is the 750 milliliter bottle. What is I forgot where they put the information on it. Yeah, it's on that pretty golden cross they push in there. It's 35% alcohol, just the original. I love bamboo because it's the only rum that I've tried that has like a really natural rum sweetness to it. It doesn't taste artificially sweetened.
Yeah, no, it's my favorite rum, like, hands down.
Yeah, it's really, like, if I'm going for, like, just a regular generic rum flavor, I go for Mount Gay, which is still my favorite rum of all time. Probably my favorite liquor of all time. But bamboo is when I want a rum that is, like, classic sweet rum. Like, it tastes like sugar cane, and I love it. It's so good. Yeah, I think I still owe you another bottle of... No, I still owe you that. Actually, yeah, the place where I got this actually had those kits with the glasses, so I'll just grab one of those the next time I'm in there. But yeah, that's my shots, which is going to be the high point of tonight because my sipper is Yabba Dabba Brew from Nothing's Left Brewing Company in Tulsa. This is a Fruity Pebbles Sour, which I have been informed by our sour expert here, is not good.
It tastes like an IPA to me, personally.
which is disappointing because IPAs are not good. And it's a shame that so many craft breweries spend so much time and resources on IPAs because they suck. As a general rule of thumb, they suck. I've had a few examples, but those are more like the exception that proved the rule because they were good because they didn't taste like IPAs. So, anyways, so Yabba Dabba Brew, Nothing's Left Brewery, 6%. I'm going to try it real quick. Hold on. I see what you're saying about the IPA thing, and yeah, it's not like a face puckering sort of bad. It's kind of just like it's got a really dull sort of artificial fruity flavor, and then when I exhale after I take a sip, I get like the fruity pebble sort of flavor through my sinuses. And it's definitely not as bad as I was expecting, but this is tolerable. I'll be able to handle this for the rest of the night, but it's not something I'll be returning to. Yeah, it's definitely not the worst sour I've had. Yeah, so Tim, what are you drinking?
So tonight, I was on my way home from my little tiny small hometown, and I stopped by the gas station. And out of curiosity, I looked at their beers, and I was like, you know what? That actually looks interesting. Like, packaging wasn't anything to write home about, but it was the fact that this is the first alcoholic tea, like a malt drink, not like the liquor, like we talked about with the vodka, that was made with real tea, like brewed tea. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot just for shits and giggles. I've given it a couple sips. It is the best alcoholic tea that's like, again, a malt beverage I've had. I still wouldn't say I'm an enjoyer of alcoholic tea in general, but I can definitely drink this a lot better than like a twisted tea or anything like that. Then my liquor tonight is Lazzaroni Liqueur Limoncello. It's a 26% alcohol. And if you remember those lemon drop candies that old people had when we were a kid, it smells exactly like that. I haven't gotten to try it yet, but it smells exactly like it.
Yeah, those lemon drop candies are something that like you don't know if you
like it or hate it,
because you don't know if you like it or hate it, and I suspect the reason I feel that way is because I'm getting a little bit of nostalgia from them, but they're not good.
It's one of those things that I feel like it's not a I hate it or like it. This is an occasional get a wild hair and I want to have it, but it's not something you would have on the regular or anything like that.
Yeah, it's like it happens to be there, and I want a little bit of flavor right now, and so I'm gonna try it. And it's never satisfying, but it's never bad either. It.
You're always left wanting, but not in a necessarily fully bad way.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm always left wanting, never wanting more, but always left wanting.
Alrighty, are you ready for the rules, Derek?
Absolutely, yeah. You want me to bring them in?
You can if you want.
All right, so here in our illustrious society, we abide by an ever-changing set of rules. Rule number 1. Anytime Tim mentions something about religion, we're going to take a sip.
And we mean like a specific thing, not, hey, this is a cult reference, just for the audience at home.
Yeah, not every time we mention like somebody's religious beliefs, but more like when we say something about the concept of religion, I guess.
Yes, that's more that or like religious beliefs or this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
Rule number 2, anytime law enforcement does something stupid, we're going to take 3 sips.
And rule number 3, anytime a war crime, like something that could be tried as a war crime, is committed, what are we going to do, Tim?
We're going to take a shot.
Speaking of shots, Prost.
Cheers.
Oh,
That's liquid lemon drop in a good way.
You know, I always imagined lemon drop would work better as a liquid.
It does. It definitely does.
Man, Bum Boom, my love, you are too pure. You are too pure for this world.
So, Derek, I know you know a tiny bit about Waco and the horrible follow-up to Ruby Ridge that is this fucking situation. What do you know?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the siege of the Branch Davidians, the second worst thing to happen to the city of Waco behind the University of Baylor. So basically, this guy who was a member of an insular religious movement, which was an offshoot of an insular religious movement offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventists, which are, in my opinion, one of the strangest strains of American Christianity.
Considering it progenerated the Koreshians, yeah?
Yeah. Basically, this guy, David Koresh, got his flock together and got them all up in a tizzy over some doomsday proclamations, which is, a classic part of Adventist theology, and brought them out to a compound in the middle of nowhere just outside of Waco, Texas, and they started stockpiling guns and, I'm not 100% confident, but I'm fairly certain, probably abusing some of the kids in the cult too. And that caught the attention of law enforcement, who in classic American local and federal law enforcement style absolutely fucked it up so bad that it caused
us to root for who should be the bad guy?
Their own little mini... Yeah, in a situation... yeah. They basically, they made this cult's apocalypse come true.
Kinda, yeah.
Just by fucking everything up so bad. Leave it to, like I said in the Ruby Ridge episode, leave it to the police to make these, this fundamentalist abusive cult sympathetic. Why does this kept happening? This keeps happening. For fuck's sake. But yeah, that's basically the long and short of it. They come to try and get their illegally hoarded guns, and they end up fucking up the raid, and they end up putting this compound under siege for a third of a year.
51 days.
Before the entire... Okay. Then it ends when they try to bust down the gates with some tanks, and the entire place goes up in flames and dozens of people die.
Dozens is a bit low.
100?
No, it's still under 100. The final total on the final day for that specific day was about 75 people died on the final day.
Yeah, that's what I know about. That's what I know about the Waco siege.
Yeah. So, our infamous cult leader today is David Koresh, born Vernon Wade Howell, August 17th, 59.
Yeah, that's right, because he... we'll get to that in a second, I'm sure.
His David Koresh is a religious anagram, basically.
Yeah, because it's based on King David and King Cyrus, or King David and Cyrus the Great, who are the...
I think his last name is supposed to be a meshing together of Cyrus and someone else. I don't know if it was David, because I know the first name David does come from King David, and I do know Cyrus was there too.
Yeah, because I know Koresh is very close to the actual Persian name for Cyrus, which was Kurush. So yeah, that's where I figured it came from.
And the cult is a branch of a branch. You mentioned this. The original spawning factor was Seventh-day Adventists, and then the Shepherd's Rod, which were also known as the Branch Davidians because they branched off of the Davidson or whatever Davidians.
The Harley Davidians.
Yeah, fuck you. No, part of there's a full name for Seventh-day Adventists, and Davidian is in the very first word or whatever.
Yeah. Shepherd's Rod is a crazy hard name for a religious movement.
Yep.
That goes so hard. That's such good branding.
It was founded by Victor Hotev. I'm not even going to try. And then from there, they split again, and they were just kind of known as the Branch Davidians from there. And there's a whole lot of political upheaval that it happened within the cult that ended up with Koresh as the leader. We're eventually going to do an episode specifically on the cult itself. This episode is going to focus mainly on the raid itself. You mentioned wanting to flame the Davidians, the original Seventh-day Adventists.
Yeah. I want to talk about them briefly because I think they are so funny because they are basically like Christian math nerds, and the Seventh-day Adventists really emphasize numerology as a way to predict the future. That is a big part of their theology. They will take numbers that are mentioned in the Bible and throw them all together in random combinations and random like formulas in order to like come up with a number that somehow relates to trying to figure out when the end of the world is going to happen. And they've made like a couple dozen because it was founded in the 1830s. And they've made dozens of predictions about when the end of the world is coming, and all of them have been wrong. And that's why it splits so much, because every time it's wrong, a bunch of people leave. So, yeah, that's why Adventists have a habit of splitting off into other groups, because whenever a prediction comes and passes, like a date comes and passes, and the world does not end, then somebody else in the church will come along and be like, actually, I've redone the math, and I figured out the correct algorithm to use in order to find the last days, and it's actually going to be like 10 years from now. And so a bunch of people will be like, yeah, well, that makes sense, and then they'll split off and found their own church. This has happened. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's weird. This beer is starting to grow on me a little bit. Like no, it's just like I don't think it's good, but like I do like the sweetness. But this is just my American like flavor palette just coming through, but like I do like the sweetness.
Fair enough. So bypassing a lot of stuff that we'll cover in the actual episode on the cult itself. Koresh goes full cult leader. Oh, I am the one true. Like, he decided that Jesus was not just Jesus, but he had a title that was not related to him being the Son of God, called the Lamb of God, and that David was now the new inheritor of that title. So instead of claiming to be Jesus Christ, he claimed to be the Lamb of God, which he claimed was separate from Jesus Christ.
Okay, so it's more like a semi-temporal sort of title rather than like he's not explicitly the Son of God, but he's inherited the title to leadership from Jesus. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that.
That's a really all culty stuff aside, that's a really neat little bit of theology right there. That's really interesting. Like, not like unironically.
And for the most part, this is the least culty cult, and by that I mean brainwash restriction wise. They didn't isolate people. They didn't do the hey, you got to cut off your friends, family, and all that. They actively invited people out from the community to come join in. They had movie nights. They did all the like community stuff you see cults do, but not in a culty way.
Yeah.
Like David Koresh was in a band and he played actual rock music. Like they played covers, but he didn't just do the lame youth pastors thing where they sing a bunch of Christian songs. He actually went out and played real music.
Let me ask you, Was he any good?
I haven't listened to a lot of the recordings, but he wasn't bad. Like, the only thing I've heard was like an original song about how he was just smack talking the guy who he beat out for leadership of the cult during that, and it's goofy.
Which is a power move. That's a power move. That's good.
It's a goofy sounding song, but like it didn't sound bad. Like it
Yeah. Okay. So
it's cringe, but not in like a you're so bad it's cringe. It's cringe in just like a this is goofy looking at it now because it's a cult leader.
yeah. So far, I'm on this guy's side. So far, I'm liking what I'm hearing.
I'm about to throw you off the deep end of not being on his side.
Crap.
So he does the cult leader. I gotta sleep with your wives. I gotta sleep with the 13-year-old children.
Classic.
Yeah. That is where one of the main, investigative leads that started the... Technically, it shouldn't have been the ATF, should not have been the ATF investigating this, but they started investigating child abuse allegations at the time, and the major organization investigating was the ATF because of the eventual gun charges that they were investigating. But basically, from everything we know, his only real crime that they can prove before the raid occurs is bigamy and pedophilia, probably.
What should have been enough, you'd think.
It should have been enough for him to get pedophilia, bullet to the head, in my opinion. But it should not have gone to the point of a fucking compound raid.
Yeah, if the raid had gone differently and they'd been able to get in and just shoot David Koresh and then, take everybody else into protective custody, that would have been a success in my book.
But you're forgetting the religious aspect. They believe in this man. They're brainwashed, essentially. And I don't want to say they're stereotypical brainwashed. They've drank the Kool-Aid, though.
Yeah, and I know that there's still a layer of culpability, at least with the adults. But there is a level where they're kind of victims too. They still have autonomy and everything, but it's kind of a half and half in my mind.
Well, that's why I'm going to say something that may be controversial, it may not. I don't view this as a normal pedophilia case, and I don't mean that in the literal sense. It's obviously not a normal pedophilia case.
Yeah, it is still bullet to the head material.
I mean, he did unmentionable things to kids, yes, but in his history, there's a bit of he was essentially groomed by the previous cult leader's wife when she was 60 and he was in his 20s.
Yeah, that's not a good balance. That's not a good power balance.
There's also, and then no, and those who have been again, he was a young adult already when this happened, but that grooming still affects people and it still fucks you up in the head.
Yeah, especially in a very insular, high control religious environment like that. That is a crazy amount of power to have over somebody.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not as I think maybe he should. He also, I think he. Okay, everyone says, "Oh yeah, every cult leader believes their own shit." No, they just believe enough to sell it to the masses, kind of thing. I think Koresh kind of drank his own Kool-Aid too. I think he believed it more than we normally expect a cult leader to, at least.
Yeah, I've always.
Maybe he knew he's a little bit full of shit, but maybe he thought that being full of shit was kind of divine inspiration or whatever. When he was reaching for straws, it was because of God,
Yeah, the perspective I've always had on it is that cult leaders very often don't start out believing their own hype, but when the hype ends up coming true and you find yourself in control of this situation where you have this much amount of power over a bunch of a group of people, you can kind of start to internalize it, and there's some
we can kind of see evidence when we do with the actual cult episode and we actually talk about David's actual history leading into this. The reason why I think he bought his own Kool-Aid is there were signs leading up to it. The thing about Branch Davidian specifically is you have to be a prophet to be a leader. And he kind of had prophetic ideology, or not ideology, but aspirations, even 19, which is even for cult leaders is not a normal thing. It's usually towards the beginning of their involvement in that specific religion, basically.
Now, is this something that like we have like documentation of him believing that he had like these sort of prophetic things going on at that age, or is
So specifically at 19, he believed that his church at the time, his daughter, that God told him he needed to marry the pastor's daughter, who was, I want to say 14, and have a child with her.
okay? Oh,
Underage person, which unfortunately, and this is actually still a thing, I think one of his legal wives, because he was a bigamist, was 14, and then the others wouldn't really talk. So to this day, they don't really have good charges against like the cult for like child abuse, because like that shit was like insular community kind of shit. They don't talk about, like, they protect their own, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So the cult got investigated by the ATF for two main reasons. We've already talked about the child abuse allegations. The next one is they thought they were gun stockpiling.
Yeah, that'll.
Which yes, it's a cult. It's a doomsday cult at that. Like, hey, the world's going to end. Guns are usually a very big factor in that. But the issue is they did everything by the books. They paid their tax stamps. They did all the fucking shit.
Yeah.
The reason why they had so many firearms beyond being like a doomsday cult, like, yeah, they're going to have a little bit more, but apparently they weren't, a couple of members of the cult weren't necessarily gun dealers, but they were, they would go to like gun shows and like they would sell a couple little things here and there. Like, the gun show loophole kind of shit. Like, people talk about this all the time in like political discussions. They were doing stuff like that, and they had the decommissioned grenades, all that stuff.
Yeah, the only two reasons that gun shows are still a thing is for gun show loopholes, and it's the only place that you can like publicly sell Nazi memorabilia without getting yelled at.
I'm thankful that I've never come across Nazi memorabilia while at a gun show.
We live in Oklahoma. It's a matter of time.
Fuck you, Derek. I'm literally just, you're gonna feel a disturbance in the force the day that happens to me.
Oh yeah, I know you're gonna blow your lid.
So again, I'm not going too much into Koresh, but the ATF began investigating because a UPS rep found firearms, inert grenade casings, and black powder in a broken package in 92.
Yeah, rookie mistake.
And when I said they did everything legally, I don't know if they like transported it all legally, obviously, because I don't think any of that's supposed to go through the mail, but I could be wrong. But from what I understand, everything that they did, like tax stamp wise, registering wise, that I've come to understand was above board. Like, why, if they're gonna like, say fuck the government and like attack the government, like what happened during the siege, why would they have registered all that shit?
Yeah, like, I'm fairly certain from the way you're describing it, I'm fairly certain my uncle has done more illegal, like, gun stuff than the Branch Davidians did.
Yeah. Funny story, if a gun's over 10 years old in Oklahoma, you do not legally have to register it.
Oh, that's neat. Oh, that's... Okay, then yeah, I'm going to be getting my hands on an STG-44, not for Nazi reasons, but because I think they're neat firearms.
And here's something that you're gonna do a face palm, Derek. So the ATF decided they're gonna have some agents go undercover. So they rent a nearby property.
Undercover into the insular cult compound?
Into the neighborhood, basically. They inserted federal agents to act as college students that never went to college.
Wait, how young were these agents? Did they look like they were in their 40s?
It doesn't mention the ages of the agents, but
I'm just imagining.
It was so transparent that they were federal agents because they never actually were seen going to college.
Yeah, that'll do it.
They barely, like, basically it was a group of people who moved in and were like immediately looking into the cult and not really being all that like secretive about it.
Yeah, those unusually aged college student, like unusually old college student over there renting that house never seemed to actually go out to campus, and they spend all day just pointing some binoculars through the upstairs window at the compound. It's very strange. I don't know why they do that. Yeah, let's go ahead and take our 3 sips. Although, let's be honest, Baylor students might actually just be like that.
Could be. So
I don't know why I'm making these jokes to you. None of these are relevant to your experience.
They're going right over my head, brother. So a local newspaper, the Waco Tribune Herald, on February 27th of 93, began publishing a series of articles called The Sinful Messiah. And that basically made the FETF go, oh, fuck, we got to push up our timeline.
Oh, that's a hard name for an article.
It was a series of articles.
The Sinful Messiah. Band name. Sinful Messiah. I'm claiming it now.
That actually sounds like it would be an amazing metal band.
Oh, man, that is a blackened heavy metal satanic themed band with some sludgy influence like that. I can hear the sound right now. It's immaculate. Beautiful.
Oh yeah. Originally, the ATF were going to start the raid on March 1st, but they're like, know what? Fuck it. The next day, the 28th, we're going to raid. Now, here's the thing. Apparently, this had become a symbol for the ATF to make up for Ruby Ridge.
Oh, you dumb motherfuckers. You utter buffoons.
Yeah, so they're going to dig their heels in thinking that if they pull this off, they're going to come out smelling like roses to make up for it.
And Tim, can you tell me, did that work?
Fuck no!
Oh. Hey, you know what will really fix... You know what really fixed our reputation after that thing we did at Ruby Ridge where we killed half a family for no reason? What if we fucked up a raid on a cult compound so bad that the city it happened near forever internationally becomes associated with police fuck-ups?
Also, ATF thought maybe they was making meth too. Just because some of the members of the cult used to be involved in drugs. And they also did how they'll do a heat map? They found a hot spot on the compound, but they had really no fucking other basis for that.
Yeah, they congratulations, you found the one space heater these guys had on the compound.
Well, they also said they had chemicals, instruments, and glassware, but it's a fucking compound. You're gonna have a lot of shit.
Yeah, probably make gunpowder. They're probably making gunpowder. What? I do kind of have my doubts that these guys would be involved in drugs because the way that these cults usually kind of work is that they grab people who are trying to get out of drugs.
Yeah,
people who are on drugs and down on their luck, and that's how they reel them in.
In fact, the ATF tried to get the article delayed because they were working a whole month. They knew about that, and they just the newspaper was like, "Fuck you," as they should.
Which, yeah, fair. Yeah, perfectly fair. You want to take? I'm sorry, that hotspot thing is just. I'm gonna call three sips on that because
I was waiting for you. There was at least 2 spots where I was like, "Is he gonna call some sips?" So on the morning of Sunday, February 28th, 1993, they decide to start executing this raid, but they kind of try and prep the neighboring areas, and they catch a nearby mailman who just so happens to be a member of the cult, but they don't know that, even though they've been investigating the fucking cult.
Yeah, that seems like a failure of intel.
One of the agents hey, be careful, we're about to raid the compound, and the mailman immediately, as soon as the agent's out of the way, runs up to the compound and is hey, they're about to raid us, and they're like, fuck.
Yeah, let's do 3 more sips for that, because I feel like you should have a basic.
Also, I think he was Koresh's brother-in-law to one of the higher ups in the church, the cult. So how the fuck did they not know?
Right. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, especially that. I think that bit's the real dumb part. If there were over 100 members of this cult, right? Maybe 1 or 2 of them might.
Oh, no, hold on. I got that wrong. So it was a reporter who had been tipped off about the raid, asked for directions from a UPS man. And it was Koresh's brother-in-law. But that's still some very poor operational security.
Yeah, because it's one thing, like, if there's over 100 people in the cult, maybe one or two fall through the cracks of, like, your intel. You're not going to be able to, like, identify every single one of them. But this was you said brother-in-law?
Brother-in-law of the fucking cult leader.
Yeah, the leader, you should have, like, a giant corkboard with a bunch of red string connect with Koresh's face right at the center and all of his family members in a big circle around his face. And that should have been one of them. Like, that is just fucky. That's just a failure of basic intelligence.
Then, Koresh immediately goes to their undercover undercover ATF agents that were not really well undercover because they had infiltrated the cult too. Like they had become a part of the community or whatever. And it's like, hey, call off the raid. I don't know what you're talking about, says the poorly disguised ATF agent.
Yeah, he comes out with a tap out. He comes out with a tap out t-shirt with like a very obvious bulge of like a Kevlar vest beneath it. And he has like a very obvious like high and tight, and he looks like he's 45 trying to be a college student.
Yeah, it was not very convincing. The whole cult knew they were federal agents infiltrating, and they were just like, okay, chill. They didn't like try and hide shit from them. They didn't like. That's one of the things that I was thinking. Like, I think the only real crime was the child abuse / bigamy, really, in this thing before the raid. Like, because so the poorly undercover agent immediately retreats and joins up with the raid team.
Yeah, he just takes off his shirt real quick and then takes off his Kevlar, puts the shirt back on, puts the Kevlar back on top of it.
I love that image in my head.
Yeah, he's got his tap-out shirt just has, like, the outline of his ATF patch on his Kevlar just kind of poking out through the chest really obviously.
And so there's, quote-unquote, debate. Who fired the first shot? But what happened was David tried to go out and negotiate him to call off the raid, blah, 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 blah. There's women and children. You know how this has already become a symbol to the ATF. Of course, they're not calling it the fuck off. They got to make up for their sins.
Yeah, absolutely not.
But at some point while David is trying to convince them not to do the raid, gunfire erupts.
To be fair, they did kind of succeed. Most everybody forgot about Ruby Ridge after this.
Just in the wrong direction.
Anyways, go on.
A bunch of the Davidians were just around praying. Like, a lot of, like, outside of, like, a handful of, like, the militarized ones, the ones that, like, believed in the holy war aspect of the cult. They just kind of huddled and prayed, but they believed in their faith. Like, so it very much was like you're punishing a whole group of people for, like, even if you're right, a few bad actors. It's up to debate, but while Koresh is trying to do that, fire broke out, and we don't know which. No one claims to know which side was the first ones to shoot. But with how practiced the Davidians were, like the ones that would have had guns, were with firearms, and then how much like the ATF was trying to make up their image, I kind of feel like it was an overzealous ATF agent, especially when you find out that when fire broke out, there was a group of agents trying to sneak off because they were the dog group that were going to kill the dogs.
This is our dedicated.
It was a dog team.
We had to streamline our practice of shooting dogs on sight, so we gave all of our dog killing to a specific unit to streamline the process. God damn it, dude. They had a dog assassination unit.
Fuck you, that's 3 sips.
Motherfucker. Yeah, that is absolutely 3 sips.
And during this, Koresh gets hit, like, immediately. But, and he's, like, in front of the front entrance doors. And the door that would have proof of Koresh getting shot at once they process the scene would mysteriously disappear after being processed.
Wait, say that again?
So one of the doors has bullet holes proving that Koresh got shot outside during the original interaction, and they try to claim he got shot later.
Oh.
But that door mysteriously goes missing after they process the crime scene.
Yeah, the ATF took that out into the desert and just burned it.
Nah, it was the feds. After day one, just like Ruby Ridge, feds take over.
Okay, yeah, the FBI take it out into the desert and burn it. That's what happened. Is this when it's speculated that one Fed like accidentally shot himself in the leg, or does that come later?
I have no idea about a fed shooting himself in the leg.
Yeah, that's a story I heard. Was that the reason that the firefight started? Was I don't know if it was this one or like a later attempted raid that they were trying to. One of the teams was like trying to climb up a ladder to get up onto the roof of one of the buildings on the outside of the compound. And as he was doing that, he accidentally shot himself in the leg going up the ladder, and that's what alerted the cult that they were being entered, and that's why the firefight started.
Yeah, it could be. So within minutes,
I don't know. I heard that somewhere. I don't know what the context was, but
out of all the stuff I've watched, I haven't heard that mentioned, but a lot of this stuff likes to gloss over like a lot of the like smaller details, or when they get into the smaller details, it's not really the details that would like add a lot of more like depth into our understanding, to be honest. That would definitely be a big one. So within minutes of the raid start and the fire starting, one of the members of the cult, Wayne Martin, called emergency services, pleading for them to stop because there's women and children. And again, from their point of view, the government rocked up, was going to raid their compound, and then just started fucking firing.
yeah, this is the moment where, like, if there were any doubts about, the government's going to try and suppress our movement because they know that we have the truth, that whole shtick. There weren't any doubts after that, I'm sure.
So the gunfight goes on for several hours. I've heard differing reports. I've heard 2 hours. I've heard anywhere up to 6 hours. But basically, the feds run themselves dry. They run out of bullets. And that leads to a ceasefire. And they let the cultists go get their dead bodies and bury them.
Yeah, this is actually just like that. Like, that's just a war story. Like, they've declared war on this little compound of like weird. Because God, and it's so weird because there's like the only thing that really distinguishes like this cult from like 1,000 other churches like throughout the country is that this one happened to be close to a city.
Kinda, yeah. So this left 4 ATF agents dead and 16 wounded. And then
How many dead?
4 ATF agents.
That is already. I knew there was like a pretty big body count on both sides. That's already more than I was expecting on the Fed side.
That's all the feds had on body count. They lost 4 people.
Oh, it's not going to be any more. All right, so it's going to be a little more lopsided from this point going forward. Interesting. Okay.
And on the Koreshian side, the cult side, 6 people died on the 28th.
God, that is just a lot of people in 1993 Texas. It's just like that's just a lot.
Yeah, this whole thing is just fucking stupid because it's the government saying that person bad, I good guy, I go save the day, I become bad guy, but I refuse to acknowledge it.
Yeah, it really is the story of federal law enforcement. It's a bunch.
Oh, and what happened with actually only 5 of them died just from that shootout. 6 hours after the ceasefire, Michael Schrodinger was shot dead because apparently he fired a pistol at agents, which sounds very doubtful given he was trying to get into the compound like that I think it was saying he was trying to re-enter with his wife or something like that, but that there was 2 people he was trying to re-enter with, Woodrow Kendrick and Norma Allison. I don't know if Allison was the wife or not because I've seen a little bit of back and forth on that, but he was shot dead by the ATF too.
So they were trying to get back into the compound, and their claim was that
what I heard about is like the wife had been gone, so I would imagine Allison, during the whole events of the raid and like at work or something, and then he basically wanted to escort his wife in, essentially, is kind of the story I got.
okay. That's I could go either way on that. I think it's possible he fired first. I don't. In that, maybe he got, 5 people just died in his parish that he lives with, and the people who killed him are just kind of like sitting there. And so I can see like him getting spooked or him getting like overwhelmed, and it's a possibility, I guess. But like I'd have to see some proof of it, because I kind of err on the side of the cops are probably lying because that's what they're good at.
It's a thing where both sides are likely lying.
Yeah, I think that's the safest assumption.
They initially still have phone lines, and he actually starts doing interviews over the phone. But the feds rock up, and cut the line, and say, "No, fuck you.
Yeah, classic.
We control this scenario." And then the government has denied. Oh, go ahead.
Real quick, do you think any war crimes have been committed so far? Because
Funny you should ask. I was about to mention specific one just then.
all right, let's go for it, bro. Let's strap the fuck in.
The government denies they did this, but there are literal recordings. Because one of my sources was the video from Wendigoon on his expose, which he did an amazing job. I can't even come to a third of as well research job he did. But they committed psychological warfare.
Oh yeah, bro. Let's.
No, they intentionally tried to sleep deprive them. They were playing a bunch of music, Buddhist chanting, screams of rabbits being slaughtered, pop music, jet plane sounds, and then they also had those rolling light generator shit fucking things, and just lit up the compound.
Yeah, that sounds war crimey to me. Yeah, let's go ahead and go for that.
Cheers.
Prost. Yeah, because I know that's some shit that they do is like a quote unquote interrogation technique, and
enhanced interrogation techniques that are war crimes.
Yeah, but I'm fairly confident there are some articles of the Geneva Conventions that are against exactly that.
Oh yeah. So there was a lot of negotiations back and forth, obviously, as they claim that Koresh was the one holding people hostage, but it was more like the FBI was holding them at gunpoint, essentially holding them hostage at that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, Koresh doesn't have to hold them at gunpoint. That's.
Yeah, they made this whole thing about hey, take some videos of the children in there, and they were hoping they were going to say something to the point where they could probably justify more violence and be like, hey, they're holding kids hostage, and everything that they found just said the kids were there willingly, as probably would have happened no matter what, because they grew up in a cult. They're indoctrinated.
Yeah, that's the sticky thing about all of this, is that it's really we just keep coming back to it. There's no good guys in this situation. There's the kids who are victims, and who are caught in the crossfire between these religious nutcases and these roided up maniacs.
Yeah. They do a lot of negotiations. During the negotiations, he agrees to let some people go. It's probably more like they needed to go do something in town or whatever, and about 30 people end up going. And as part of that, they get milk that's somehow been rigged up with listening devices. I don't fucking know how, but whatever.
Wow, that is something. That is
wild, right?
The listening devices in the milk is yeah, just go on. I don't even have anything to say about that. That's just self-evidently wild.
As part of the negotiations, Koresh said, hey, I'll turn myself over if you play a recording of one of my sermons over the radio. And they do that. But Koresh reneges because he says God told him he needs to write his, I don't know what you would call it, his teachings, his commandments, something like that, over the 7 seals. Revelation's 7 seals. Like, he's been prophesized by God, and he wanted to write about the 7 seals. And he's just asking for more time during this, and he gets the first book or volume about the first seal done, and he's like, here's my proof, or whatever. But at 51 days on April 19th, the FBI says, fuck that! More war crime.
Oh, boy. Ah, jeez. Oh, God. Yeah, shit.
They fire some tear gas, but not any tear gas, Derek. Do you know what tear gas they used?
Was it phosphorus?
No. I mean, I don't know the chemical makeup, but the specific tear gas was CS gas.
What, like the guy who wrote Chronicles of Narnia? Come on, that was funny. C.S. Lewis.
It went over my head until just now, but it went over my head at first. Then it wasn't funny because it went over my head. It's a cyanocarbon, and it was banned by the Geneva Protocol in 1925.
That is so early. That is like,
this fucker was banned for over 70, almost 70 fucking 5 years.
yeah, the Geneva Protocols, they were the ones they did after World War I to try to make war a little less, trenchy.
You ready for that shot?
Abso-fucking-lutely, that's a shot.
Cheers.
We even have justification. Like, we have, documentation to justify that shot. That's crazy.
Yeah, no. And funny story is, I knew they used a banned compound, but every article, except for one small part at the very beginning of the Wikipedia article, just says tear gas.
Yeah, CS that's a pretty nasty nerve agent, isn't it? Like, not technically less than
I didn't look at exposure causes a burning sensation and tearing of the eyes to the extent that subject cannot keep their eyes open, a burning irritant of the mucous membrane of the nose, throat, and mouth, resulting in profuse coughing, nasal discharge, disorientation, and difficulty breathing, partially incapacitating the subject.
Okay, I think I misunderstood. Yeah, CS gas is just the regular, than the official name for regular tear gas.
No, it's not. Tear gas is just like mace. Like, that kind of stuff is the normal stuff. It's like tear gas, like, this is like, it's not lethal, but this is like, it's higher level than should realistically be used, is basically what it is.
Yeah, I get, I'm not very well versed in different forms of gas warfare, I suppose.
I am not either. I'm not going to claim to be a expert in the subject. Funny story though, that from the quick Wikipedia article I had brought up to get a little bit more information, it's being used in the Ukrainian war.
Oh yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Well, I knew they were doing a bunch of war crimes. Russia was, and then because Ukraine's backed into a corner, I know they've done a couple things that are war crime-y, but they're guerrilla warfaring it. I don't really blame them.
Yeah, the Ukrainian armed forces, we can be reliably confident that they don't have an official policy of doing war crimes because they're really trying to keep on NATO's good side. But it wouldn't surprise me if it happened. I don't think there's any official policy on it from within the Ukrainian military itself, but it would not surprise me if it, heat of the moment, the shit just sometimes makes its way through.
And this is another thing that the FBI is lying through their teeth. They claim outside of the CS gas, which actually, when aerosolized, can cause flame. Like the canister itself could cause ignition / flammability.
Oh yeah, because it's still using a heating agent to vaporize it. It's fucking hot.
Yeah. They claim they used no rounds that day that could cause any kind of flammability that started the fires. But a couple years afterwards, a couple people kind of visit the site and they can find shell casings of stuff that very clearly were from like grenade launchers that were having incendiary use.
Yeah, completely unsurprising. So, yeah, we got the gas, we've got the incendiary weaponry. I think incendiary weaponry on its own should be another shot, honestly, because that's its own whole other beast.
I mean, if you want to take another shot, I'm down for it. Let me get that was the last one I knew we were going to have, so I didn't pour a new one.
Yeah, because I know these things start a fire, right?
Yeah, so before we take that shot, let's kind of explain how the fire kind of broke out. The cult claims that no one on their side started the fire, but the FBI from their listening devices have recordings of Koresh like moving kerosene that they had, because at this point they were cut off from a lot of stuff. They don't have power. They barely have water. They what had happened is they had like 4 water tanks that ran to this compound, but because federal agents being fucktards and running over shit with tanks, they're down to 1 water tank.
So their water tanks just got run over by the feds. I like to think it wasn't even on purpose. They just saw like a big metal thing and they were like, "Ooh, run over it."
Yeah, no. From what I understand, it sounded like they were just having fucking fun with the tank, and they ran over a bunch of shit.
Which, to be fair,
if you had a tank and you had shit to run over,
if I had a tank and a written "I can't get in trouble" note from the government in the form of a federal job, like, I'm running over some shit with a tank too. That's just human nature.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's all carrot, no stick. Like, what do you expect to happen?
Cheers.
Prost. These have been some lovely shots. I've been very much enjoying these shots.
I wish I had a little bit more time for mine to get a little bit colder, but this is actually really good, not really nice.
Hell yeah.
3 individual fires break out throughout the compound, and
probably from the grenade launchers and the gas canisters.
Yeah, because even if they were like from the recordings, it sounded like Koresh and his team were preparing to light the thing on fire as like a last case scenario, but it almost sounds like the government said, "Fuck you, we're coming in," and did it for them.
The government said, "No, me first,"
and they try to raid the compound, but it goes up in flames. You mentioned it earlier, but I'm pretty sure they rammed the fucking tank into the compound too.
Yeah, that's... Also, I know on the day that this happened, there was a big crowd outside watching the whole thing go down.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you were going to mention this, but there were 2 people in specific that were there.
Yes, I was going to mention it next week, and I wasn't going to mention it this week, but specifically Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols.
Oh, then there were 3 people.
Who was the third?
Because you know who else was there? Alex Jones.
What?
Yeah, this is how his career started.
That fucktard was there?
Yeah, Alex Jones was there on the day the compound was raided. He recorded the whole thing. That's how his media career got started.
Wow. I hate that fucker so much I didn't want to know his lore. I didn't know he was involved in this shit.
Oh yeah. This was his big... This is what started his conspiracy theorist media career, and then it
depravity.
Yeah, and then it really blew up after 9/11.
I can imagine, yeah.
Which a lot of things blew up after 9/11, but go on.
I'm disappointed at that joke. I like a good 9/11 joke. It was too easy. It was too low hanging fruit. You can do better. I expect better.
I thought it was funny. Fuck you.
Out of everyone that was in the compound still at the time, only 9 people make it out. 75 people die.
That's crazy. They just from the fire.
There were a few people with injuries suggesting not, specifically Koresh. One of his higher ups ended him for him. Basically, like, his assistant killed him for him, so he didn't, like, mercy kill.
Yeah, like the Roman general asking his armor bearer to, like, stab him through the heart when he loses a battle.
Kinda, yeah. Of the dead, there were anywhere between 20 to 28 dead children.
Ah, shit. You know what makes that all the worse is that there's no clear number, which suggests some real bad things.
Yeah, especially with our fucking stupid-ass government, with the way... Like, at no point was anything like this necessary, and they did not... Like, they 1000% escalated all this to this point.
Yeah.
This is actually like pretty chill cult, all things considered.
I hate that you worded it like that, but yes. Like, as far as cults go...
How would you word it?
I don't know. I don't normally associate the word chill with a pedophile cult that hoards guns, but as far as cults go, like, these were some of the less explicitly violent ones.
Point proven.
I don't know. I think the word chill is a little strong.
No, I didn't say they were chill. I said comparatively, or given the circumstances.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
This is not a chill cult. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, we are grading on a curve here.
A very heavy curve.
Like the guy who set the curve for this made like a 62. Like we're talking like this is pretty low.
Nah, the highest grade on this test was a 41.
Ah, shit. I took that physics class in high school. That sucked.
Yeah, this is the kind of class where, like, no one ever got above, like, a 50, so he had to curve every single goddamn grade every test.
Yeah, and the professor always would never stop bragging about it.
But that was the federal government's second fuck-up in our trilogy, leading to next Mystery Docket's Revenge episode.
Yeah, this is going to hit a lot closer to home because I've known like 4 or 5 people in my life that were directly affected by this next episode.
You know, I don't know actually a whole fucking lot about the Oklahoma City bombing because it was like, I know McVeigh did it. I know he used manure. Like, I know the rough details, but no one ever really went into detail about the actual, like, bombing to me.
Yeah, we covered it in excruciating detail as we had like a whole unit, like a week-long unit about it in one of our classes all through middle school and like freshman year of high school. Like every year. Like I know about it in excruciating detail. But yeah, because I had like 3 teachers that had family members who either survived or died in the Murrah building bombing, and I had my bus driver was she worked one job as a school bus driver when I was in middle school. She worked one job as a school bus driver, and then her full-time day job was as a bus driver for the Oklahoma City prison.
Oh, damn.
Or the Oklahoma County prison. And she multiple times drove Timothy McVeigh to court appearances and stuff.
Oh, shit.
So like I have our upcoming episode, I have a lot of like indirect personal connection to, because I grew up in a suburb of Oklahoma City. So this next mystery docket is going to be a whole thing for me.
Oh yeah. This is actually going to be a lot more learning than normal for me. So Derek, how do you feel about the 2 major fuck-up times by the egg-in-the-face government situations we just had on these last 2 mystery dockets?
What can I say but shocking but unsurprising?
Yeah.
And it's hard. It really is hard because none of the victims in this situation, besides the kids, like none of the victims in these situations were like good people.
No, but they also didn't deserve what the fuck happened either.
Yeah, whatever bad situation they were causing was made 1,000 times worse by the introduction of federal police.
It's like, hey, I need a 5-pound hammer for this nail. Pulls out goddamn sledgehammer for Godzilla.
Yeah, what I actually need is I need an electric screwdriver so I can drive this screw, and you pull out an 810 Warthog.
Yeah.
And the reason for this, at the very core of it, the reason for this is because federal law enforcement, really just any law enforcement, have this concept in their brain that their borderline psychopathic desire to murder people is like,
and they'll never admit it to themselves either.
Yeah, they have this really deep-seated desire to just kill a person, but they have enough of a conscience to want to be seen as a hero for it. They want it to be a good killing. And so they're just any feasible.
And then they'll delude themselves. Like, there were so many people, even to this day, that were a part of Waco, a part of Ruby Ridge, that says they were in the right.
Yeah, and that's it's just like, yeah, I mean, yeah,
I read the ATF's fucking article on this shit on the Davidians. There is not an ounce of we fucked up in there, even though they mentioned that it was ruled that they kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it's just a cavalcade of like just sheer, unfiltered, unadulterated psychopathy paired with overwhelming incompetence and the federal seal of approval to just kill people. Just all rolled up into one, and you put them in a situation where, admittedly, the people who they're facing off against are, in one case, a neo-Nazi, in another case, a pedophile cult. And just find...
And you still make them look like the good guys!
And you still make them sympathetic, which is... How do you fuck up that bad? How do you fuck up so bad you make a neo-Nazi and a pedophile cult leader? The U.S. federal government are...
It's the U.S. government. Only explanation needed. U.S. government. Only our government, Derek. Only our government.
I don't like libertarian. I consider myself, to some extent, a libertarian. Obviously, I'm a bit of a libertarian, but I'm like on the left-wing sort of spectrum of libertarianism. Right-wing libertarians...
I lean more anarchist, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, I remember when we first started this podcast, we were kind of having... We never argued about it, but we did kind of have like some good debates about because you kind of came from a background of like kind of being interested in law enforcement and things like that.
I would say I was more conservative than you were when we started this shit, and I've just dived head fucking first into fuck the government in the opposite way of like our stupid fucking conservatives.
Yeah, but it's obviously like I'm an anarchist. I consider myself like a libertarian of a sort. I don't respect right-wing libertarians for a variety of very well-earned, well-deserved reasons. But holy shit, when you read a story like this, it's hard to not kind of fall in the same area that they're at. In regards to like, why are we trusting authority to these people?
Why are these dipshits still in charge?
Like, if nothing else, if you can't sympathize with these, if you can't sympathize with the people on the other end of this as like just human beings, then take this perspective. What a neo-Nazi living in the woods needed was a gentle hand, if for nothing else than to preserve the safety of the guy's family. And instead they went in guns blazing. And
I don't think Weaver does anything dangerous his entire life other than being isolated. Like, I think the only bad thing Weaver does is be isolationist and have some shitty racial views. Like, that's it. I don't think Weaver does anything else his entire life had we not fucked his life up.
Yeah, and to be fair, as much as I hate it, from the perspective of the federal government, who pledge an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, everything that Weaver had done was protected by the First Amendment. He had not done anything explicitly fucking illegal. In this case,
Weaver literally did nothing wrong until they decided to try and kill his family. He got entrapped on the gun charges. Legally speaking, I'm not talking morally speaking.
Yeah, and in the case of David Koresh, like, absolute fucking monster, actual piece of shit. Something had to be done. He still had a constitutional right to due process. And that was denied to him, and that was denied, and the security that came with that was denied to the people who were a part of his cult, because the people who were sent to deal with him were a bunch of fucking meatheads with delusions of grandeur who had all convinced themselves that they were fucking action movie heroes.
I gotta make up for the fuck up of Ruby Ridge.
The more you learn about the function of the federal government and the society that it creates and that it interacts with,
we live in a society.
The more you learn about it, the more you learn in-depth, granular information, the more you are forced to come to the inevitable conclusion that it is not functional or fucking, efficient. Or it's not functional, it's not efficient, and it's not moral. In any conceivable way. Like, how can you justify this? It is...
I don't know. The government would do their damnedest for it, though.
It's just monstrous. It is such a deliberate, they create through the society that they build, that they uphold, that they enforce, is fucked up. And the consequences of that fucked upness, they respond to with overwhelming violence. That's not moral, that's not justified, and even if you don't give a shit about any of that, most importantly to you, I guess, it's not sustainable. How do you deal with that? Like, am I going, just thinking about it makes me feel like I'm going insane. Like, on the face of it, it is so absurd.
And guess what? The people in power don't give a shit. Yeah, we fucked up, but the system is fundamentally fine, even though we fundamentally will have systems in place that will cause the same issues to crop up time and time again.
Time and time again. And they will learn nothing. They will never reconsider. They will never just look at any of these situations like a human. And it's not just like Waco and Ruby Ridge. Like, we have a bunch of, I've been meaning to bring this up in one of these episodes, but we have a lot of stories just like this that don't really get talked about as much or considered as much because it didn't happen to white people. We have situations like the bombing and the police bombing of Move in Philadelphia. We have the Alcatraz occupation. We have Standing Rock, both Standing Rock events. It keeps happening, and every time somebody just doesn't quite fall in line with exactly what the federal government expects in granular detail, they respond with overwhelming violence, and every time it happens, it just causes more problems. And America, the United States of America, comparatively, if you look at the grand scale of human history, is a very, very young country.
Oh, yeah.
And you could say, America's lasted nearly 3 centuries with this system. It must be doing something right. The Roman Empire lasted for over 1,000 years. It still fell because its systems were fundamentally flawed. The United States is fundamentally flawed, and we can see those flaws plain as day in the way that they interact in situations like this.
And anytime we say, hey, let's try and fix these glaring issues that are causing strife within our world, they absolutely stick their head in the sand and act like we didn't say shit or tell us to go fucking die in a hole for suggesting it.
Right, because at the end of the day, the system is set up for a purpose, and that purpose is to keep those people, those fucking assholes, in a state of power and comfort. And so, of course, ideologically, they're never going to accept the concept that maybe things have to change, because changing means that they might not be as comfortable as they were before. But at this point, it's either we let these people just keep going the way that they've always run this country, and or and we all just get fucked.
I mean, the perfect example is this current administration that is just throwing everything to the wolves. The fucking war chat group text leaks with a goddamn journalist in it.
Yeah, we are seeing I think, okay, genuinely, I think we have reached the point. Because I have always been firmly of the belief that, like, if nothing else, there is something to American, like, the meritocracy of the American federal government where, like, even though the people that they put in power are dumb, they still have certain competencies that exceed, like, the average competencies of the general American population, if for no other reason than they have access to better education. We finally reached the point where that's degraded so much that the current administration that we have is below the average intelligence of the American citizen.
I actually saw a TikTok that postulates that it was actually intentional because guess what they're not actually talking about? The bombings themselves!
You know, I think that's just a convenient side effect. I genuinely don't think they're smart enough to come up with that on their own.
No, I saw the people listen to that group chat. Their IQ collectively could not hold up a wet paper bag.
Genuinely, just the dumbest, most sheltered people in all of American history are now running the federal government. And we've finally reached the point where, like, the average competencies of those at the highest levels of the federal government are below the average competencies of the general American population. You can, and just the raw statistics, you could take a handful of people from anywhere in the United States, completely at random, place them in the same positions, and they will do a better job.
Facts. Well, Derek, I think we're going to be on our soapbox for the next 2 hours if we don't try and wrap it up. If we don't try and find a stopping point, we're not going to stop.
When we talk about the bombing in the next mystery docket, we're going to have plenty more opportunities, I guarantee it.
Oh yeah, we've gotten our soapbox a lot these last 2 episodes, and the next episode is going to be no different. Give them the sauce, Derek. Where can they find you?
They can find me on Blue Sky at Visigoth. The O is a 0. Tim, where can they find your stuff and all of the podcast stuff?
They can find me at Blue Sky at Tim, a.k.a. Otis, but they can also find the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at the Alexander Society Pod, Alex Society Pod on Blue Sky, and then Alexander Society on TikTok. And if they love what they've listened to, they can give us a rate review on their streaming platform of choice, and we'll see them next time.
Bye.